environmentalist, human rights activist, and supporter of freedom from labels. We do so much to label ourselves and to put ourselves down. There is a petition going on right now to stop the registration of autistic children. How did it come to this? How did it come to this? It's not something that's going away. It's who we are. It's a reflection of an environmental stress, which has caused change to our species. There is no nice way to say that, you know. Being autistic means that you're very, very different from other people. You're neurodivergent. It's not a bad thing. Neurodivergent people are all around us. We're all on that spectrum to varying degrees. You have autistic people who cannot function whatsoever, and then you have high-functioning autistic people. And high-functioning autistic people are usually artistic people. Usually people who can think on multiple levels and have boundless empathy and ambition. The two things that this Registration Act is looking to identify and, of course, squash. Because it's very hard to admit that there is a growing trend of, hello there, Tina Marie. Welcome to my chat. Today we are protesting this Autism Registration Act. It's a hard thing to be a parent. I can only imagine what it is to raise an autistic child when you yourself aren't autistic. That must be difficult. But to send your kid to a school that says now you have to be tested for it, and if you're tested for it, you'll be shoved into situations that are just terrible. I mean, they did that to me. I was a straight A student, pretty much, getting my good grades, everything, and they said you had to take socialization classes with a kid that I will only describe as retarded. He was extremely slow in his mental processing. And that's how America treated me. They just said, okay, you're intelligent, you're very good in science, you're very good in mathematics. Could you take classes with a retarded person in order to learn how to be social? This is the United States, and I'm going to let you know what this Registration Act is going to do to your kids. It's going to pull them out of class, pull them out of an environment where they're supposed to be learning and away from learning how to socialize properly with the people who are currently with them to get the worst instruction on socialization from people who most likely are not autistic themselves and will only do more damage, because what do you do when someone tells you how to smile at people, or, you know, that friends are really important? Do you listen to that, or do you say, that's utter bullshit, I'm gonna go and work on rockets or an after-school technology project because that's what I'm more interested in? Because that's what I did. Which is precisely why I'm an engineer now. I joined the United States Air Force as an engineer. So I have nothing to apologize for. I'm an intelligent American citizen. Treat me with respect. Treat your kids with respect. How damaging is it to say that you need special classes in socialization and that the teachers are unable to handle autistic children? There is a protocol. There is absolutely a protocol for handling autistic children. And if you cannot do it properly, then yeah, it does come down to the parents, and the parents have to choose what is best for their kids. But you can't have the government tell you what you can do with your own children in that kind of way. You have to take responsibility before it gets to that. So yes, we're going to protest. I have my song, Mutant Registration Act. I think I'll give that a bit of a spin. I'm very proud that, after all the attempts to try and bring me into that super social fold that America does, I can honestly say that I'd rather be the new and emerging species than a person who looks at America, sees the brokenness, and does nothing. Being neurodivergent has allowed a person like me to become a community leader, a person like me to be the foremost pioneer in Martian technology, to be better than NASA, better than SpaceX, and better than any space agency on this planet. Change.org/genius to Mars. Try me. I'm a very good scientist because they tried to label me as neurodivergent, and I said, fuck you. And that ended that socialization classes. It ended the whole idea that I could be treated any way differently. I completed all my courses and I went on with my life. And I said, I don't have to apologize for shit. For shit. I don't like to shake people's hands because I'm autistic. Deal with it. You want someone to shake your hand, go fuck off. Go find someone else. I don't like to be touched. I don't like to be in crowds. I freak out when things are out of place or they are messy. I say this with like really, really cool funky hair, but even so, you can tell it's controlled chaos. Being autistic means that you have a window into the world that you look out of and you respond to. How many musicians, how many actors, how many politicians want to put themselves on that list? Can you imagine you're on your huge Hollywood set and some man from the government says, we got to pull you out. You're just not social and engaged enough. Can we pull you off a movie set to teach you how to be more human-like? I don't understand. Everything that makes an artist an artist, everything that makes an actor revolves around the fact that they are very neurodivergent people. They're a different species. They may look like you, they may talk like you, they're not you. And it's not something we should fear, it's something we need to embrace. There are environmental concerns, there are political concerns that people like us are very sensitive to. We're very sensitive to these issues about human rights and environmentalism because we understand that the way that we live our lives can be snatched away from us in an instant. So we keep aware, we keep vigilant, we have nerves that are completely raw. We freak out all the time. It's very inconvenient to you, but to us, it's just who we are. So today we are protesting this registration act because if you have somewhat of the luxury of being somewhere in the middle, just enjoy your life. Enjoy it. These conversations aren't for you. If you're in the middle, whatever. If you're on either end of the spectrum, find appropriate help as you go about your day, your life, and instead of labeling kids and hurting their development, why don't we offer more aid? Why don't we do more to help them and not just label them? Because you should be helping everyone, because everyone is on this spectrum at some point. There are some people who are born autistic, and then there are some people who become autistic later in life. We need to talk about that as well. So we are protesting this. We are protesting this until we see change, because we need to be an inclusive country. All of the things that are invented, all of the art that we consume are because someone was a neurodivergent somewhere along those lines. Are you going to say that you wouldn't appreciate Vincent van Gogh? You wouldn't appreciate Madonna? Because Madonna probably took a look at her life and said, I'm going to do something completely wild and outrageous and different. I'm going to be a musician. Neurodivergent. Same thing with Lady Gaga, Studio C. Studio C, I love you because you have this wonderful, wonderful series that you do on Studio C where it is, what if famous people weren't famous? And my favorite has always been the Lady Gaga episode. And I will retroactively add that link at the bottom of my description, because I watch that and I say, that's exactly what it means to be neurodivergent. You want to express yourself. You don't exactly know how to express yourself. So you express yourself in any and every way. I mean, Lady Gaga wore a meat dress because she was trying to express something. And yeah, it's a little shock value too, but she's always trying to express something. She's always trying to express herself. Whether or not you understand the message, whether you feel something from the message, that's on you. But we do not censor someone for that attempt at trying to reach other people or start a conversation. Same thing with autistic people. It may be an autistic person who's obsessed with numbers or has a terrible time speaking. How about you just learn how to speak to them? How about you make it more difficult on you? Take the burden on yourself instead of saying that everyone has to be labeled. Because if you're already at that point, you're already labeled. But if you're going to be dragging regular kids into this because they might be leaning that way, well, maybe they need to be engaged more. Have you considered that in America, that maybe kids that are on this spectrum are also just really, really bored and should be given more challenging things? I have always said that the workforce has to get younger and get younger faster. Like, you need to graduate 12, 13. If you are a math genius at 8, guess what? Guaranteed job at NASA. That's the kind of government intrusion into your life that I would like. If you don't want to do that as a kid, fine, whatever. But if you have those math skills, if you have skills in science, skills in medicine as a kid, you should just be in that. You should be in that, learn it at an expert level, because yeah, maybe they won't respect you enough as an 8-year-old math prodigy. But if you were given the task of putting a team of people on Mars as an 8-year-old prodigy, they will respect you. Because we need to learn to respect our kids. Our kids are our national treasure. And this Registration Act is saying that we don't want them. How does it feel to feel unwanted by society as a kid? It's bad enough. We have to protest this. We have to do more. I'm going to read some of these comments. 8:30, thank you so much. The funky phase, you were on the spectrum. Not everyone. I can't believe people like this vote. I mean, I think you're talking about this bill. All right. Prime Motion. Hello, hello, hello. I'm glad that you're here. As I said, you know, we have to come together and protest this discrimination. Because it's just labeling and collecting in data without giving anything back, instead of saying, okay, well, we need to restructure the entire American education system to reflect the fact that there are more people on the spectrum. They just said, now we're just going to label people. That's it. That's it. That's all you do. Thank you for asking how I am, Stop Motion. I appreciate that, because I've been trying my hardest to live in Los Angeles as a disabled American veteran with PTSD from military sexual trauma. And I can barely do it. I can barely do it. I wake up every day and I spend most of it crying, I spend most of it upset, and I think to myself, how much damage occurred to me because someone labeled me as neurodivergent and stole me out of class for American socialization training. And how different it would have been if I had someone like Buzz Aldrin or Neil Armstrong, if they were, you know, available at the time, come up to me and say, you're really brilliant at math and science. Would you like to be a part of the space program? I know how you feel with that comment. I've seen enough of for 53 years. You can't check out. you wish you could, but it's your country too. And every time that they come up with a wacky bill like this, you have to remind them that it's your country too. So instead of doing a sit-in in front of Washington, D.C.'s White House or something like that, why don't we protest and boycott? I have my song, Mutant Registration Act, which is a protest song against this Autism Registration Act. I intend to not buy as many American products because of how they're treating American children. I'm going to boycott, because that's the only thing they understand. I will not go to as many movies as possible because I need the film industry to say, no, you don't get to do that. You don't get to do that because all those people who you damaged and bullied and labeled and just ruined are now in our business, but they're drug addicts and they have problems with rage and problems with this, problems with that. I wish that I didn't have to talk about this, but Jonathan Majors of the Marvel franchise, I don't know the full story of what was going on, but whatever that drama is, probably a neurodivergent person, probably a person who's on that spectrum. Same thing with that Ezra guy from the Harry Potter reboot, Fantastic Beasts and where to find them, Ezra Miller. The Flash, probably neurodivergent. I think that we need to just embrace the fact that this is who we are now. I mean, you're talking about a registration act, but that's just who we are. Everyone is, to a certain degree, autistic. Higher functioning, lower functioning, but still, that's just who we are. There's a high chance that I am on the spectrum and I want to get tested, but I don't really know how. How would I? I know it's off topic, but I would like to know. It's completely fine. It's basically a personality test. You ask yourself, are you an introverted person? Are you an extroverted person? Are you a deep thinker? Or are you a superficial thinker? If you're a deep thinker, if you're intelligent, if you are more introverted than extroverted, you're probably neurodivergent. Sometimes that means that you are high functioning and you don't need any assistance. Other times you do need assistance, and that assistance could take the form of, you need to have a conversation as a neurodivergent person and say, this is what I allow and this is what I do not allow. And a lot of neurodivergent people don't do that because they don't know that they're neurodivergent, but then they get pissed off if, a random stranger, looks at them and says, how are you? And then puts a hand on their shoulder. That could make a neurodivergent person freak out, and they wouldn't know that they're neurodivergent, but then once they experience that, they definitely know that they're neurodivergent. How was my Easter? I don't celebrate the holiday. I don't. Great-great-great-grandpapa Jesus, I don't celebrate it. For me, it was just another day. I was more looking forward to Earth Day than I was that particular holiday, mostly because, what am I going to say? I'm a scientist. I just want to concentrate on building spaceships and a colony on Mars. I have no time for religion. I'm a spiritual person, but I don't have time for that. Let other people pray. I just don't. Lazy maverick. So I am protesting this. I am always open to someone asking me questions. If you ask a question and I don't feel like answering, I just don't answer it. I always have the right to say no. But if you want to ask a question, go ahead. I want to thank all the people who are coming into this chat right now as I talk about the Mutant Registration Act in the form of Autistic Registration Act, because it's really testing people to say, are you going to be a musician? Are you going to be like a weird artist or something like that? Are you a socialist? Are you a future communist? Are you a future American dissident because you're going to be dissatisfied with the American government? That's what this Autism Registration Act is really about. It's testing kids to see whether or not they're going to be the ones to form an insurrection against the American government. Okay, I love that question. Thank you. Thank you, Prime. So how are you going to be able to, get a rocket for Mars? I don't want to use rockets. I actually want to use the commute and a gravity well. The commute is a large flotilla of ships with materials to go all the way to Mars. I'm talking about everything from freezing parts of the atmosphere and then transporting that all the way to Mars. I'm talking about digging up entire swaths of dirt. I'm talking about taking a third or a fourth of the water all around the planet. I'm talking about going to every landfill in America and beyond and saying, what is there? Because I'm taking every last bit of it and I'm shipping it all to Mars. And I'm not going to use a rocket. I'd probably use a solar sail for the first trip. Hello. Hello there, A. Where are you going to build this? I don't know. I thought that I could build that in Los Angeles for some reason, which is why I came here. But the truth is I'm going to build it in the middle of Pacific Ocean, right around where that giant plastic, I want to say plastic continent is. I'm going to put it on top of that. Solidify the plastic there and then reconstitute it into a shape that will support the foundation for what I want to build, which are at least the first module to send up and then have a gravity well from there straight to my new space station, which is what I'm thinking of. Because it doesn't make sense to build a spaceship on Earth. It takes far too long. So from the space station, build every single module that I need, and then start seeding that planet with small little capsules. Basic farm, basic power unit of solar cells, and I guess an expandable foundry, which is a 3D printer. And just have that pretty much one unit. And if you want to extend, you extend. If you want to keep it that way, you keep it that way. But that seems to be the best way to do it. Change.org/genius to Mars. I have to remind people that I actually have a petition to send me directly into engineering. Oh, I'm sorry, Stinky. Oh, Mr. Cola there. Your fucking country sucks. The earth is falling apart. The air is polluted. The water is poisoning your fish, which you eat. And you want me to bring up my kids in any of this? No, thank you. I take my chances on the red planet before I would ever let my kids go through the American education system. No, thank you. Now, if you have an issue with someone talking about space exploration, you came to the wrong place. Oh, and funny you should mention that, Atlanta, because where was the United States government during the entire COVID crisis? Because it seems to me they let their ass get kicked by a bit of a flu because they didn't have any infrastructure whatsoever. And when a neurodivergent person like myself, who, yes, folded the proteins for your vaccine, made recommendations, you wouldn't listen. So I don't want to stay here. I don't want to stay here at all. All right, Prime, where are you going to find materials for you? Literally just said there is a floating continent of plastic in international waters. At this point, I have to think that somebody has to collect that. And then I think of my petitionchange.org/LA waste is wealth, change.org/LA waste is wealth, where I'm trying to reclaim all of the discarded machinery, glassware, woodworks, everything, and just take it out of these landfills where they're just sitting in a pile, doing nothing, collecting dust and just taking up space. When I could actually take all of that and then put it into space, make a ship from that. And by the way, I'm not talking about a rinky-tinky tin can like your NASA does. I'm talking a proper spaceship with the room and the magnificence of an expanded space to be more inclusive and ergonomic for humans to travel through space. Because right now we have been trying to pressurize and contain everything, and it's just like, no, that's not how you travel through space. You travel through space just kind of like how you live in a room. You live in a compartment that is comfortable, your size and everything. Am I taking my dog? I would like to. I would like to. I'm that person who says, I think dogs in space is a wonderful idea. Because people keep talking about, oh, well, the first colonists are going to be extremely lonely, and the disconnection from living away from Earth will drive them insane. It's like, no. Like, have you ever owned a dog? Like, you could fucking talk to your dog. You could fucking chill with your dog. Your dog does not give a shit. Your dog is more chill than fucking other astronauts. So why not have a program where you say, yeah, I'd send dogs up there. I mean, you'd have to be a bit more mindful of the fact that, you better be an expert in veterinary care because you really are by yourself. But why not? If you couldn't bring your dog into space, means that you're not doing something properly. You're missing something, because you need to bring all of the Earth to Mars. You don't just bring some of it. All right, back to these questions. So I'm going to ask, what happened to that old lady on that subway? Oh, so you saw the video. So I have a video on my channel of what I can only assume is the LA culty business of bothering a person who looks like they're famous to most likely either teach them that they're famous in case they forget, or somewhat harass them so that they come to the epiphany that the only safe place in Los Angeles to be cool and artistic is the entertainment business. I don't agree. So what happened is, I was on the bus. This old woman comes on the bus, goes directly to where I was sitting, and starts babbling at me. I immediately felt uncomfortable. I moved to the front of the bus. She followed me there. She kept babbling at me. She kept trying to lunge toward me. I called the police. I had the bus driver calling metro security. No one fucking came. Like, no one did anything. And then eventually, she just got off the bus and then stood in front of it. And because I have PTSD from military sexual trauma, I'm crying. I'm crying because there is literally nothing I can do, and I say to myself, well, I could get off the bus, but if I get off the bus and this crazy woman who is obviously upset gets off the bus too, it is late at night. I have to wait for the next bus. I don't know if that woman is just going to get off at the next stop and then just come running toward me, and then I have no cameras. I have I have no way to call for help. You know, I'm just there on the middle of the street in the middle of the night by myself. So how is that safe? I mean, I wanted to get out of that situation so badly, but what could I do? What could I really do in that kind of situation? Because what I wanted to do was just punch that woman in the fucking face and say, get the fuck away from me. But then I might, have to explain to the police, yeah, this woman was like getting too close to me, so I punched her in the face. And they would say, well, she has a right to invade your personal space. And I'm like, no, she doesn't have the right to lunge toward me. She doesn't have that right. I mean, it's disorderly conduct. This I can't even say that word. Disorderly conduct. There it is. It's disorderly conduct at the very least. So if the police deigned to fucking show up at that point, she could have been arrested for that. She could have. But if I ended it by punching her, I would have really let myself down. I really would have. And I know that this is just a repeat of what happened to me at Lackland Air Force Base when I was sexually abused by Master Sergeant Miranda. Where I have a woman who wants me to take off my clothes and perform a sexual act, and I have to say to myself, if I run, I could be shot. If I punch this woman, I would have been assaulting a commanding officer. And therefore, no matter what happens, I probably could have been court-martialed for that and put in worse trouble. But I chose to find help, and I went to the hospital. And I live with that memory of that awful event every day. And still, the Department of Veteran Affairs doesn't want to give me my disability benefits. So the right thing to do was to say to this monster, you know what? Enjoy this bus. I'm going to hail a taxi. I'm going to call an Uber, and I'll just go back to my shitty fucking apartment that way. I should have done it that way, but I can't afford an Uber, and this was the only way to get back to my apartment. So I had to suffer this while no one did anything. And that's why I say, you know what, you can call me names, you can say anything. This is why I choose Mars over the United States. This is why I choose Mars over Hollywood. Because those kind of situations where no one can do anything and the law isn't on your side, it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it, because I say to myself, I spend my money in a country that doesn't allow me to have safe passage on public transportation. I live in a country where I've been a victim of 2 hate crimes and also being groped and fondled on public transportation. I pay this country and I say, You're punching me in the face, calling me a faggot. Here's some money for that. Here's my money. Let me give you money to allow you to do that. Because that's what I do when I use the LA Metro. I give them the ability to assault me, call me a faggot, and I'm tired of it. I'm tired of Los Angeles in general. So yeah, change.org/you belong on Mars, where I'm actually trying to build the first city on Mars. A city that makes a lot more sense. A city without cars, without traffic, without bullshit, without electric bills. Because you can call me names, you can call me out on my mental difficulties, but you're the one who's fucking out of your mind if you pay an electric bill when the sun is right there and you know what a solar panel is. It's another story if you've never heard of solar panels, but if you know what a solar panel is, you should have one. I have one. In fact, I'm using one right now in order to broadcast this because I'm a future thinker. I'm a neurodivergent, and it all goes back to you see autism as such a burden, but look at what it does for you. I had the ability to say, I can reduce my operating costs of living in Los Angeles by just saying, you know, this is a very sunny place. What if I just harness that energy and then use that to power my technology? Being neurodivergent is the coolest thing ever, and I will not allow kids to grow up and feel as if they're less when they are so much more, and they should be cherished and uplifted because of their differences. And if they don't know that they're different, then just cherish the weird quirks that they have and explain to them what it means. Hello, how is everyone? I'm gonna have to do some housekeeping here. All right, there we go. Thank you everyone who is being polite and not saying as much. I know that it is very difficult to talk about life in America, but life in America is very different when you're not a cisgender white male of privilege with your perfect neuro boringness of always being a complacent pussy that will put up with anything. When the FDA has to take it to 2025 to say, you know, all those food dyes that we have that make your food a little bit more colorful, a little bit more interesting, yeah, that was probably making your children sick. Yeah, we can stop that now. We can. Now? How long has this been going on? Because I would say it's been at least 40 years for me. I don't know about you, but I think they've been using artificial food dyes in food for much longer than that. The Night J. Decades. Decades. Are you sure it's not a full century at the very least? Because I would have to think all the way back to the first years of the Industrial Revolution when we started canning things, when we started saying to people, you know, we want your food to be a commodity, so we're going to store it for you. And we want to package it and then put it in stores for you instead of just saying, here it is in the supermarket. This is what it normally looks like. Do you want to buy it because this is how it normally comes? When you look at things like salmon, and salmon is a different color than what they present to you. Mr. or Mrs. Motion, I don't really have much going on in this space. I mean, I've got the dog over there. I have myself right here. That's all. It's not a house. I should be in a house. You see, that's the problem that I have with the lack of disability benefits. It's not the money thing. It's the fact that I need a place of my own. I really need a place of my own. I don't want to live in this weird commune, whatever bullshit. And I say this as a person who is so socialist at this point that I might as well just call myself a communist, because if the shoe fits, fucking wear the heels. It makes a lot more sense in space, in Mars. I mean, you look at something like the space station, those people are fucking sharing resources. They're not looking at a freeze-dried tube of pizza toothpaste and say, I have this in my personal inventory, but if you want it, I would like to sell it to you for like 50% more. They don't think that way. They just say, this is what's here. This belongs to everyone. I don't think they really fucking care. I think they're too busy being scientists to really think about the capitalist enterprise that they would build in the smallest space station that we have. It's small. It's way too small. And hello there, new people. Welcome. My name is IanXIlyana. I am a proud mutant, because I'm just going to go ahead and just call it what it is, because I'm genetically different. I'm not just neurodivergent. I'm genetically different. I'm a mutant. I'm going to accept that. I'm going to say, yeah, that's cool. So I have a song out right now. It's the Mutant Registration Act. Because I think that we need to embrace being weird. Being weird is amazing. I guess being a little hedonistic, a little pagan, a little Wiccan, it just opens you up to this idea of, if it harms none, do as you will. Privet Jurug. Hello there, reading. How are you? Hello there, Noah. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to the revolution. My name is IanXIlyana. I'm talking about this whole Autism Spectrum Registration Act that they're trying to do to kids. This is what they waste their time on. They waste their time on this instead of saying, COVID just happened and we weren't prepared for that. Could we maybe do something? Okay, real one, enjoy yourself. No, I know the cure for my mental difficulties, and it's to get the fuck out of America. Get the fuck out of this over-consumerist society that says, do you want an iPhone? As opposed to, do you want to build your own phone? Do you want a house, or do you want to build your own house? Do you want to live in a new city, or do you want to just live in a city filled with potholes and crackheads? Because that is LA. What's wrong with America? Please, Motion, I appreciate you. With great power comes great responsibility. Of course, that's the exact answer, and I'm going to leave that comment there. You still get a timeout, but Just, I'll give you a 10-minute timeout. But it is 100% the right idea. I think of all these Republicans and all these people who would support this kind of bill, and I say to myself, so what's going on in your life that you need to interfere with a child's development like that? What went wrong with you that instead of changing the American education system to reflect who we are and what we're becoming, you just want to pick on a bunch of kids? I think you're fundamentally damaged if that's the case. "2025 is the start for weird, for sure. Should have been in 2012. You're absolutely right. I talk about, being weird. I talk about all of it. I support the Republican Party because they are stopping the border crisis. I don't know what they keep telling people. There is no border crisis. We act as if, people are, at the borders trying to cross in mostly illegally, and the numbers aren't that high. And if anything, we have people who are here who need a better avenue towards citizenship. We don't need less people in America. We need more people. I do not support criminals coming into this country, or, I'm pretty sure that's the policy of most people. But what about these kids that grow up here who are straight A students? I cry when I think about, this 60 Minutes program that I saw where this little Spanish girl, top of her class, brilliant, and someone reported her parents and said, they're undocumented. And so they ripped her out of school. And I said, you took the best student out of your school? And she knew America, loved America. Oh, well. There was 10,000 people crossing the border every day. They keep making up different scenarios to dumb them down and distract. For how much longer is the question. It doesn't work quite as often as you think. I feel that way almost about the hypnotizing effect of the entertainment business. People love a good TV. Yes, they do. They really do. But I'm going to tell you a little secret. If you want to get away from TV addiction, take your fucking chairs and shove them all the way away from your TV. Or learn the ability to watch television by standing up. Because once your legs get a little sore, once you get a little tired, a little bored, you'll go on to do something else. Oh, and here's the biggest one. Stop eating your meals with the television running. Because the more time that you use food in order to engage with cinema, you're just becoming a consumer. You're becoming someone who is dazzled by pixels instead of appreciating it for political satire and the art that it is. If you really are a cinephile, really are a person who loves the art of movie making and television, watch it without. Because you will pick up on so much more. I'm watching Charmed and The Order on Netflix right now, and it's a silly show about magic until you start saying to yourself, every now and then they let out a little nugget of, that's a profound truth. a profound truth that they just laid out there under this careful guise of, well, we're talking about magic and monsters and things like that. I'll give you a good example. I'm in season 2 of Charmed, not the original. The original is perfect, but the reboot. And they have an episode where they're going after a demon, and they have a demon knife, and they're going to stab a demon with it. And then they make the comment of, oh, and here's the kicker, it was encrusted with salt, and that is how we vanquish the demon. And I said, isn't that how they deal with Americans? You say to yourself that you're not political, apolitical, whatever. You just live your life. But if you are a person who is more critical about the government because you realize that it's your government and not some nebulous collection of politicians, it's a part of you as well, and you're a part of it. If you think that way, then you also have to think the food that you put into your body that allow your body to be nourished and grow is just as important. The idea that salt is such a distraction to people is not something that we talk about. The FDA wants to talk about artificial dyes in your food, and I'm glad that we finally had that conversation. And they said by next year they could remove it from American production. What is my favorite Netflix series? There's so many. If I say Bridgerton, it's I like those period dramas because they're so transformative, and they had such a big budget for it, and the costumes were so intricate, and every episode was amazing. But Netflix is okay. No. Come on. Just admit it. Okay, it's Julie and the Phantoms. Okay, that's my favorite. Why? Because I'm in love with that Charlie Gillespie, Canadian actor. I fancy him for his voice. And I think he is perfect in that role. And the fact that didn't develop into something more, it says something. I'm hypercritical at Netflix for constantly canceling shows, but when they leave them there, it becomes cult favorites. And I am going to do a rewatch and maybe even do a whole YouTube channel devoted to Julie and the Phantoms, because the music is amazing. And the story is amazing because you think to yourself, I'm going to be a musician, I'm going to be an artist, I'm going to be an actor. But you sign these contracts and these people own you. They own you, they own your artwork, they own your likeness, they own everything about you. And they keep you that way by pretty much giving you money, and then you spend it on this, you spend it on that, you go wild, and then you're in debt, and so you have to do another movie, and then your kids need braces, so you need another movie just to do braces for your kids. Or, oh my God, my house just got flooded. Oh, well, there's another movie there, and you never get to take a break. I look at something like Game of Thrones, and I love Game of Thrones. But when they took a 2-year break, people were fucking pissed. People were fucking pissed at HBO Max now. But yeah, they were very, very fucking upset because they said, no, you had us on, you give it to us every Sunday, and that is what we do, and that is what we do with our family, and this is all we talk about and everything. And then you go behind the scenes and Daenerys Targaryen has to fight a brain issue, and then you have people like Kit Harington up in the furthest reaches of the north, freezing his bollocks off. And we don't say, dude, go warm yourself up. It's no, he has to be there. He has to be in the frigid cold because you need realism there. You couldn't do that on the soundstage. You built this wonderful castle town, but you had to do that in the furthest part. It is raining there. It is cold. It is sleet. It is snow. It is hail. And you don't care because you say, when you see them in these snowy, miserable scenes, oh, such brilliant acting, such. No, these people are suffering. They're cold. Don't they deserve a break? And the entertainment business says, for the most part, no. You're under contract. You have to do that. You have to show up for this many episodes, these many scenes, and if you want that as your lifestyle, good for you. If you have to put up with, and I say this because I really do like Amelia Clark. I really do. If you have to put up with heat exhaustion because they put this weave on your head that does not allow your scalp to breathe, and that most of the time during takes, you're just trying to get a single breath in to get the next word out. I just don't see it as worth it. And that's what happens to people who are maligned and called neurodivergent and ostracized and everything. They get suckered into that business. And I say this as a person who is an artist, but guess what? Independent as fuck. Thanks to my distributors, I can put out as much music as I want. I can take a break if I want and not release music for like a week. I like creating music. I like not having concept albums and just speaking on real world issues. I had someone talk about their experience as a homeless person, and I said, you know what? I haven't done a song highlighting the struggle of homeless people in America. Let me make some art. And so I did. And that's Dirty and Hungry by IanXIlyana, which is available on Apple Music, Amazon, YouTube, Spotify, Tidal, and all the rest. Daniel, you're absolutely right. Kit Harington gave everything to Game of Thrones, and at least his adopted half brother has somewhat been able to do more. But I look at his career and I say, well, I mean, you're always going to be Kit Harington to me. You're always going to be Jon Snow. I want to see more for myself. I want to see more for this country. And I'm very critical of the entertainment business because I understand that they have this huge responsibility to both further the zeitgeist on important social issues, but also offer a haven for all these people discarded. It's not easy. It's really not. I just wish that the business wasn't so predatory, but I guess that's life. Mutant Registration Act is my newest single. Please enjoy that. If you like content like this, consider my Patreon. Consider my Cash App if you'd like to make a small donation so that I can keep this channel running. I don't consider myself a super political person, but if you want to sign my petition to be LA mayor, please do. It's in the description. We need to do more. And I will not let this go undiscussed. You know, if somebody wants to have an honest conversation about neurodiversity in America, we can start there. But to label a bunch of kids as autistic and therefore, you know, the stigma of that being problematic, I mean, that'll just damage more than help. Of course, GX City 23, you may always ask a question. I do not guarantee that I can answer it because I always retain the right to say no. No means no. But you may always ask. And hello, Paula. Hello. I know this isn't a singing live, but there's a lot going on. Hello, Jaden. Paula, I'm going to start with your question first. Do you believe that vaccines cause autism? They can. There are reactions to it, but I also think that it has a lot more to do with an environmental stress. There's something in the environment that is just like there is something in the environment that's turning more men towards being transgender and more women into being transgender. There's something that is causing autism because it wasn't something that we truly had before. There are no cases of autism before, I want to say, what, the 1940s, perhaps? So there's something new. There's something new. And we don't teach these kind of things in school. We talk about the world wars. We talk about the Revolutionary War. We don't talk about the thalidomide poisoning of children that happened in recent decades. We don't talk about that because that would actually be important, because that would remind people that an environmental disaster can affect your kids. Well, I work in a hair salon, and we had a client, a little girl, and she was normal, and she got a vaccine, and she got autism now. Now today she has seizures. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to hear that. It's a parent's right to choose. It's a parent's right to choose and to know all the facts. And I would almost say this is why I ask people to sign my petitions, because I'm a brilliant engineer. I'm a brilliant medical engineer. And what I would do is I would do mathematical models based on a person's genetic structure and environmental stability within their bloodstream to see whether or not that they could withstand something like a vaccine. Because if there is a direct correlation between the two, then that means it's a reproducible effect, which should have been tested in a laboratory before it was available for mass distribution. But then again, you know, I'm not a parent. A parent just says, if the doctor tells me it's safe, I'll do it. You put your lives in the hands of a stranger. You put your kids' lives in the hands of a stranger. No, no. People can call me names. They can say this. They can say that. I say, I think I make more sense, and that scares you if you don't think that it's logical to do more testing before you do mass production of vaccines that you stick into children. do you really need the vaccine? Yes and no. It's better to be vaccinated because if you come across something, you have a protection against it. But it is also just as important to say what is going on, that you have things like a measles outbreak in America, because either something went wrong with border control or something went wrong in environmental control. And we need to have a conversation on that more than we need to have a conversation on, well, vaccinate everyone. And also, I think what next is absolutely right. Our immune system is all we need. But is your immune system the best that it can be, or is it being slowly weakened? Weakened by the fact that we don't sleep enough. Sleep is your superpower. You don't think that way because, you're told everything starts at 8 or 9 o'clock. And then if you chug caffeine, you can regain your energy. And it's like, no, your body doesn't work that way. It's your body needs sleep. And if it doesn't get sleep, you're fucked. Paula, I'm glad that you think that way, but I'm still going to tell you to eat your vegetables. I'm still going to tell you to exercise. I'm still going to tell you to drink water. I'm still going to tell you to get sleep. I'm going to tell you that if you feel tired, take a nap. If you don't want to have a vaccine, you don't want to put up with this, put up with that, then you need to be more vocal about everything else that is going on. It's not that we needed the COVID vaccine. We also needed the ability to say sick people should stay at home. You say that that's an easy thing to do, but how many Americans are sleep deprived? How many Americans are malnourished and don't consider themselves malnourished, but then have issues? Thank you, What Next? Subscribe to the channel. I hope to see you again soon. How many of us don't consider ourselves malnourished, but then complain about things like thinning hairlines or your skin is breaking out? Those are the signs. Kingsley, you're absolutely right. We are sick because people love convenience. It's very easy to say, I am a poor person and therefore I can afford only $1 menu or a $3 meal. That's the only thing I can afford. That's the only thing I'm good for. Respect yourself. Respect yourself by saying, you know what? I'm not a coupon person. I'm a person who sees the value in adequate nutrition. It's not as glamorous as having a giant bucket of chicken or a giant pizza pie. Make yourself soup. Make yourself a stew. Make yourself a sandwich. Because that is real nutrition. Anything else is deep fried, salty lard, which you shove down your throat, shove past your feelings and common sense. I love that food. That food is delicious. Thinking about it just makes my mouth water. But I look at myself, I look at my family, and I say, out of all of them, I'm the only healthy one. I'm the only healthy one because I said, I like vegetables. I like carrots, I like spinach, I like kale, I like chard, I like mustard greens, I like collard greens, I like green leafy things, and I like to put it in my mouth and then feel good because my stomach isn't over my pants. That when I wear clothes, the clothes fit or they're loose because there's so much room, because I keep losing weight because my people, my tribe, were skinny people who ran all day. I feel good as a skinny person. I feel healthy. I feel like myself. So no, I don't eat fancy food anymore. I cook my own recipes, and it's just simple rustic fare. Tastes amazing to me, and I love every single morsel of it because I know that it nourishes me, keeps me healthy, keeps me beautiful. My skin is clear, no pimples, barely any wrinkles. It looks hydrated, all because I'm eating properly. This is what it means to be neurodivergent. I'm going to keep bringing the conversation back to this because when we are talking about pulling children out of school to re-educate them and then label them as autistic, you're really saying, well, do you just not feed into American bullshit? Are you going to grow up to be a person who says, you know, all these major companies, they can keep their food. I'm going to cook. I'm going to learn to cook. I'm going to suck at it until I get better, but I'm going to cook my own food. And then, you know what? I like cooking my own food. I'm going to go the step further and I'm going to grow my food. Because that means that you're dropping out of American bullshit. And Paula, good for you. Because eating out, I love restaurants. I'm not trying to crap on restaurants. I'm really not. But this whole idea that you go out of your way to spend your good money on a meal that you think is so fancy, so tasty, so out of this world, and all it does is clog your arteries, make you fat and unlovable. And when you look in the mirror with your acne and your gut and your hair falling out, I want you to remember that you had a choice. You always have a choice. And Autumn, learning how to cook is a superpower. You think that these recipes that these restaurants are coming up with are amazing? Try your own. Come up with some combination that you think is amazing. Because you will gain so much pride, so much self-esteem by saying, I did that. I made that meal. Glorify the world is temporary, don't overeat, get away from processed food, grass-fed and organic foods. God bless you all. Bye. Thank you, King Lee. That's, such a kind thing to say. I appreciate the little benediction there. Fresh vegetables, and I don't eat red meat. Paula, that's the hardest one. It's the hardest because I want to be that kind of person who says that you shouldn't eat that, but there's almost a reason to. As much as you want to live that healthy lifestyle, as much as you want to honor the environment, eating red meat on occasion restores your ability to be a hunter, a predator in your own right, and a person who has cunning. That's what it means to be a carnivore. Whether or not you take it to extreme levels, that's on you, but there's a reason why we're at the top of the food chain, and it wasn't because we were eating lima beans. I'd love to grow doing it so many one day. If necessary, I could fall back on cooking if I needed a second job. I won't quit until I'm great at it. Absolutely. I highly recommend to you learn how to be a home gardener. If you have space in your backyard, or even if you have a small apartment, learn how to create an ecosystem for yourself. Learn how to just buy a pot, water it, plant some seeds. Start with microgreens, alfalfa. You could start with chia seeds. Chia seeds are extremely easy to grow. All you have to do is you can use a paper towel. You can grow them on a paper towel. They're that easy to grow. Why should you eat red meat? Tell me, I want to know. You're so intelligent, I want to. Thank you for the compliment. And thank you, Jaden, for staying for this conversation. You have to eat red meat because you need a certain amount of LDL. You need a certain amount of low density lipids because you need fat in your life. I'm the one of those people who, says a vegan lifestyle is the best lifestyle. But a vegan lifestyle is often missing in fat because people don't realize that there's a reason why we have a food chain. The cows eat the grass, which soak up the energy from the sun. And then we eat the cows because we're not eating sunlight, but we're eating cow meat, which have taken the energy from the grass. But it takes that energy and it creates compounds like lipids and carbohydrates. Now, you shouldn't be getting your carbohydrates from complex sources, but when you get them from something like meat, it turns into collagen, squamous cells, things like that, the skin off of it, carbohydrates. So you want that in your diet. So if you're going to go that vegan route, just make sure that you have fats and oils in your diet. That's all. Plenty of yogurt, make sure that you're eating nuts, legumes, that sort of thing. Chicken and fish? Well, you're a vegetarian. Okay, that's not a problem. Because I was concerned, because people need to be more mindful of what it means to go down that vegetarian, vegan route. I mean, you can get rid of red meat, but make sure that you're still getting high density proteins. I guess is the best way to put it. Because you need that. You need to have protein in your diet. I eat chicken and fish. That's so cool. Hello there, Eddie. How are you? Welcome to my chat here. We have a healthy group right now as I am talking about autism and how it has a place in this society. If everyone was the same, then you wouldn't even have things like an iPhone. You would have just said, Android is all you need. And that would have been the market. But now look at it. At least you have diversity. You have a chance to experience something new. Being autistic means that you can think differently and that you are open to changing your mind about things that you hold to be traditional that are detrimental to your health. Redlining is a huge problem in America, huge problem, because we reward people who exhaust themselves. Because we say to them, you know what? That project needs to be done, and if it's not done, either you're fired or you're going to have a hard time seeking a promotion. Or worse, they say, you know what? I need you to work harder. Could you just do overtime? It's innocuous. And people say, I love overtime. I was that way. I would love to do overtime because I said, okay, well, that's money plus a percentage extra because they can't pay me at the regular rate because subconsciously they know that they're ruining my health. They're ruining my ability to form social relationships that could be meaningful. And they're holding me in an environment which is most likely unhealthy for me. So they do have to pay me more because it costs me. Thank you, Paula. I appreciate that. I enjoy having you as a guest in my podcast because you contribute so much, you're caring, and I learn from you. I absolutely do. I only want the best for this nation. I know that it's very difficult for people to understand that because it's very easy to be rude. It's very easy to, just put people down who have mental illnesses or PTSD like I do from military sexual trauma. But before you turn to such hateful ways, I want to remind you that once upon a time, I was a regular person. I could walk outside and I didn't freak out. That's been taken away from me. That's changed. And there was a time when I could have been an actor. I could have been a Disney performer. I could have been a Shakespearean actor on a stage. I could have done musicals. I could have done a lot of things. But then the United States Air Force sexually abused me, and there's no recovery from that. There's none. Because, like I said, autistic, and they're trying to say in the Department of Veteran Affairs that because I'm most likely on that kind of spectrum, that it was okay for the United States Air Force to sexually abuse me. It was okay for them to do that. It's not okay. It isn't. I have a family that depends on me, and all they see is the burden of this veteran, this monster that came out of the military, damaged and broken and not as beautiful and happy as the loving family member that they lost when the United States Air Force sexually abused me. But I have to focus on what's ahead of me because I made promises to defend the country, and I guess that means I have to deal with chucklehead trolls who want to call me a schizo or tell me to go fix myself or whatever. Literally just talked about it, Wade. If you want to know the exact minutia of how I was sexually abused, I just spoke about it. I'm done for the rest of the conversation about going into detail. But thank you for your concern. I appreciate that. Just because I'm a veteran does not mean that I stopped fighting for America. I stopped caring about it. I'm going to continue to be a community leader. I'm going to be a person who is a loud voice for child safety in our schools and their ability to receive the best American education that they can have. I'm going to try my hardest to emancipate people from a work-life balance that has always been stacked against them. And Paula, thank you for saying that. There was absolutely no reason for that to happen to you. You're a beautiful person, and don't ever forget that. I will never forget that. Autumn, you're not a monster, but a lot of people don't understand how traumatized people are and how they struggle after incidents. My sister couldn't understand it. You know, I had to go to the funeral of my mother right after I'd been discharged from the military and being sexually abused. And she has to tell me that my mother had passed away because I am in the middle of Times Square and my family is coming to pick me up. I'm going to take me back to the house that I grew up in. Everyone's piled into the car and they say, we'll be there, you know, just 10 minutes, 10 minutes. And I get into the car and I immediately say, where's mum? And my sister is crying and she can barely get the words out. She can barely form a sentence to try and tell her brother that my mother was gone, that she passed away while the United States Air Force was sexually abusing me. And so she does the only thing that she can do. She tries to hug me, comfort me, share a little bit of the grief so I wouldn't feel so devastated that the next time I see my mother, I would see her in a coffin. Never hear her voice again. I recoiled. I stiffened. Because a female had touched me after I had been sexually abused by Master Sergeant Miranda. This is my own family. And my brain just could not operate on that level of, that's my family trying to comfort me. So yeah, fuck you, United States Air Force. Fuck you, Department of Defense. Fuck you, Department of Veteran Affairs. You had no right. You had no right to sexually abuse me. You had no right. You had no right. I spent that entire car ride stiff, silent. I finally went to the funeral for my mother and my whole family is there, whole extended family is there. They want to give condolences. They want to, sit down, have a conversation about good memories that they had with my mother. I couldn't do any of that. I had to leave my mother's funeral. I couldn't be a part of that because of what the United States Air Force had did to me. They robbed me of the ability to be human during a funeral. I don't forgive that. I don't. You can't stop crying. I cry all the time. I cry all the time because I say, my mother was dying, and I said that this country needed me more than my mother did. And instead of honoring someone willing to sacrifice their family, because I said that that woman was sick and she was going to die, but my sister needed a champion. My father needed a champion. My cousins need a champion. I have to go and serve this country to protect it, to guide it toward a better future. That is who I am as a person. So I gave up the chance to spend my time with my dying mother. I spent it with strangers. And yet still, they won't give me the dignity to say, could you just live by yourself instead of every time I go on the LA Metro, they grope me. I make complaints. I use the app, and you know what? Just no difference. Absolutely no difference. LA Metro has allowed hate crimes. They've allowed sexual harassment. A woman grabbed my ass and then she just put on a hat and sat down. Like, what are you gonna do about it? Am I mentally all right? I was sexually abused in the military. No, I don't think I'm all right. I don't think I'll ever be right. And then LA itself is just a disgusting city that they won't allow me the dignity to just sit quietly with my service animal, get to where I need to go, and then go back to my apartment. No, and instead of actually utilizing my service animal like I'm supposed to, because you have a service animal because it's supposed to give you the ability to go back into the public and then do what you do with an animal who's trained to help you with that. And I have to say, my service animal is trained in several things. My service animal is not trained specifically on woman gropes my crotch in the middle of Long Beach on a bus. No, no. I do need help. I need my disability benefits. I need my disability benefits. That's what I need. I need my disability benefits. You don't like me complaining about my PTSD. You don't like me complaining about the state of America and that nutrition is an issue here. Give me my disability benefits so I can take my good intentions and shove it back into my own mouth. Because I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop talking about the brokenness of America, because whatever was wrong with this Master Sergeant Miranda is wrong with a lot of people here. I talk about military sexual trauma, but I don't often talk about how rape culture is just everywhere in America. That this frat attitude of your body is my body and I have rights to it, that you don't have the right to say no as a woman or a man ever in America. That's a problem. That really is a problem. And in the military, you should be able to say that, yeah, there are threats outside of America, there are threats in America, but you join the military because subconsciously you know you need a tribe. You need to be able to have one group that you can say, when shit is going down, I've got my gun pointing that way and your gun is pointing in the same direction as my gun, because we're on the same team. We are from the same country. We speak the same language, albeit mine is extremely accented. But that's why people join the military. I mean, yeah, it's for the honor, it's for this, it's for that. But it's for the ability to say that there is an American team and I want you to be on it because I'm on your team as well. And that when everything is coming up against us, we all are fighting the same thing. But in the military, it wasn't that way at all. It was, can we give a promotion for sexual abuse? Can we give a promotion for rapists? Because that kind of aggressive bullshit is the kind of tenacity that we want to retain in the American culture. Call it what it is. They know I can fight. Everyone knows I can fight. I just choose not to. I could have bust that fucking woman's nose for saying what she did to me and then trying to commit a sexual act against me. I could have done that. I could have broke her arm. I could have thrown her up against the wall and told her never, ever bother me in any way. I could have done that. I chose not to. Because there are limits. There are limits. She knew that there was a limit. So no, I will not tarnish my honor just to impress the military. I'm better than that. I'm an American citizen. I have rights. And I have the right to criticize America. I have the right to do so. So that's just how things are. And thank you, Paula, for handling things. This is why I ask for moderators who are my regulars, because, you know, some people, they come in here and they just want to be rude because they're hurting inside. And I don't know. I really do wish that you find the healing that you need, because I don't want you to be hurting either. I know that I'm crying, I'm upset, but I don't want you to feel that way also. So as you keep telling me, please find some help for yourself. And Wade, how will getting your disability benefits make things better? Private property and private enterprise. The ability to say that you own a property, so therefore you can lock a door, you can decide, you know what, I have such severe PTSD and I live in a town where I have PTSD triggers, maybe I can stay home. Maybe I can just have everything delivered. Maybe I can just live a life by myself and just do things that way so I'm not upset all the time. That's what the money is for. And the money is for, you know, if I have to live in an area that maybe I could leave that area, or maybe I could say, you know what, I want to take a holiday. I want to, you know, go experience something new, go to Scotland, just walk in the Highlands, joined by many, many burly, attractive Scotsmen. Find myself a Jamie and have a lovely Outlander adventure as we wear our rustic shirts and kilts, and I speak in Gaelic. Diawit fair imena. But no, instead of all that, I am stuck in LA, too poor to leave. And the autism registration is all about labeling kids as autistic, but not labeling them, as in, here's a medical diagnosis. It's the government knows you're autistic, and what that really means. Autistic means that you see through bullshit. Absolutely see through bullshit. That's what autistic people do. Some of them see through it to the basis of numbers and physics, and some of them see through it to the basics of politics and sociology. Okay, and Joanna, thank you so much for the love. Thank you so much. Paula, take me out to lunch. I'm talking about the goodness here. You cannot watch a show like Outlander and not feel for Jamie, who, has gone through so much. If you've watched the first season of Outlander, I won't ruin it for you, but that was a show that talked about military sexual trauma, talked about the brutality of rape culture within fantasy, which is why I appreciate actors, I appreciate writers. It's a brilliant book. I highly recommend people read the book. Oh, when you get your benefits, take me out to lunch. When I get my benefits, I'm going to finally be able to cook a proper meal. Go to Gordon Ramsay's website and get my pots and pans, get all my utensils, get my own pasta maker. Just start my own pop-up restaurant for myself, because I love cooking. I love being a chef. I wish I could afford, enough to really take that to the next level, because I don't know if I can do restaurants after the PTSD. Thank you, Paula. It did put a smile on my face. See? You did a nice thing there. I appreciate that. That's a good point. Honestly, I don't think I could ever live in a city, because there's just too much trash in the world to deal with it. It's nice to just escape sometimes. I agree. I agree. This is why I'm fighting with them over my PTSD benefits, because I'm still here. I'm still living in this world. I just want the dignity to make the adjustments that I have to make, because I came out of the military a different person. And like several kids who have received a vaccine and now are autistic, they're different people. They have to accept that. They have to make adjustments for that. And I don't like there being a government list of these people, because it's just a list of, I guess we have to keep you under surveillance, and you're always going to be on a list. Be careful what you tweet. Be careful what you put on social media. You can't be associated with those kind of groups. You can't do this. You can't do that. That's what that is about. These kids are always going to be under the thumb of the government. And they shouldn't have to be. They should be educated enough to make smarter decisions about several things, including food safety and the environment. Do you know about Vedic mantras? I'm a very spiritual person. I do chant, I do yoga, I do tantra, kundalini, and the more sexual kind. And I am full on exploring your body, exploring your mind, because that makes you a whole person when you accept all of that. which is one of the reasons why I talk about being two-spirit transgender. For me, I'm not going through the operation, but I do live my lifestyle more akin toward being a man sometimes, a woman sometimes, and just living life that way. And I wouldn't have had that terrible schism if I didn't have such mental distress and body dysmorphia after being sexually abused by the United States Air Force. I wish it did help me with the benefits thing, but it's a fight. It is a fight for your benefits, but it's also a fight for the soul of America, because I'm not the only one who was sexually abused in the military. I've read stories about people being gang raped. I've read stories about people becoming pregnant. I've read stories about people, losing their job, falling into homelessness, falling into drugs. There are several people who are worse than me. I will not say that mine was the worst case. I'm just saying what happened to me shouldn't have happened. Shouldn't have happened to anyone. Shouldn't have happened to any American citizen. They're American citizens. It's easy to forget. Joanna, I hope that's the case. I really do, because I need all the assistance that I can. I need thoughts, I need prayers, I need, people, crossing their fingers, crossing their toes, crossing their eyes, all of it. I need a miracle. I really need a miracle, because I've got bills I can't afford to pay. I have a place that I want to move out of, but what am I going to do? It costs money to leave. The VA says, if you don't like it here, you can leave. I'm like, okay, well, how do I get my stuff from here to wherever I'm going to move to? How do I even get myself to where I'm going to move to? It costs money to buy a plane ticket. It costs money to box up your belongings and have it shipped to your new place. Thank you, Joanna. I do appreciate your zealous nature of advocating a certain vibrational attunement. But as much as I want to be a spiritual person, I also have to respect myself and say, I don't want to live with my abuser. And my abuser is the United States, and my abuser is Los Angeles. So I have to find a place where I can be treated with dignity. I've talked every single. I'm sorry. I'm terrible at grammar. And people talk about my English accent. I don't know how to speak English. I'm terrible at grammar. My syntax is terrible. I speak at length about Texas and my experience in Texas. I was an ugly transgender person living their truth, feminine clothes, full beard, makeup, all of it. No one gave a shit. No one gave a shit. No one gave a shit. I cannot say that enough. Texas was a beautiful, beautiful place where nobody cared. Nobody cared. The women didn't care. The men didn't care. Nobody said anything. I never had any issues as far as being a transgender person whatsoever. Did I have a perfect time there? No. There was certainly, Some days are better than others, but for the most part, yeah, it was fine. I come to Los Angeles and I've got women crossing the train just to tell me how beautiful I am. I try and get this cell phone that I'm using right now, which is very funny because this cell phone that I'm using right now was given to me by a VA employee who was trying to give me my phone, but then stopped the entire process to tell me, you're so beautiful, you should be in movies. Give me my fucking phone. Leave that sexual harassing crap to your thoughts and fantasies. I'm a veteran. Treat me with some respect. Obviously, I couldn't afford this iPhone on my own. Don't put me down by sexually harassing me. That's just LA. That's just LA. That's what they do here. It's always easier for everybody to say just do it when they have everything. It's easy to say, you have a mental illness, you have this, you have that, instead of saying, you have a point. If I was sexually abused in the military, I don't think I'd be okay. I think I would drink heavily. I think I would probably be on drugs. I think I would find anything and everything to stick up my veins and get me to escape that feeling. And I'm a strong person that doesn't do that. So I don't think that these people who want to, talk to me about, oh, just go get some help or get over it or whatever, they could handle it. Nobody can handle this. Welcome to Cali, Holmes. Alessandro, that's exactly what it is. I came to LA and, as much as they want to be groovy and, talk about inclusivity and you want to be a part of community housing and look at all these activists that come out of it and all these celebrities talking about important social issues. It's all bullshit. It's just bullshit. So... And Paula, thank you so much for sticking around and being a moderator during this non-musical chat. I talk about my problems all the time. I really do. This was a time to be selfless and talk about how children are being registered as American dissidents in infancy for having an autistic medical diagnosis. That is what it is. It's a witch hunt, but you're not even hunting adults, you're hunting children. I think that's wrong. Maybe that's just me, but there's a petition going around. Maybe you might want to consider looking that up on change.org and signing it, because we need people to stand up to these politicians. TGJ Big Gunner, welcome to the chat. The reason why they want to register these children as autistic is because they're really asking, are these children going to be future socialists? Are they going to be American dissidents? Are they going to be problematic employees? Are they going to be entrepreneurs? Are they going to be inventors? Are they going to be community activists? Are they going to be heroes who try and save people? Because if so, then the government needs to know that. They need to know that. Because a bunch of kids who are autistic are the biggest threat to national security that America has ever faced. I'm an American. I agree with national security. I don't agree with this. These children should have the ability to grow up, discover who they are, find their balance in life, and live happy, productive lives in a way that makes sense for them. Not everyone can be a cog in a machine in an office. Some people need to spiritually just be farmers. Put potatoes in the ground and dig them up again. And that's what it means to be autistic, is you look through all the bullshit. You look through the bullshit of you have a paycheck because someone is shackling you to a desk. Shackling you to a job in an office to keep you from spending time with your family, starting a family, finding a partner, spending time with your partner, finding engaging pursuits for yourself, taking care of your health, eating properly. Call me names, be rude, whatever. I just don't think that kids should suffer because they have a diagnosis of autistic. Because that will follow you. It will follow you throughout your education. It will follow you to when you apply for jobs. It'll follow you when you apply for benefits. It's just that kind of personal medical data is just constantly used against you, and it manipulates you. I use social media, but don't let yourself be used by social media. This is a turning point as a nation. Choose correctly. I can't make that decision for you. I can just encourage conversation. My name is IanXIlyana. This is a special podcast that I'm doing here as a member of the press so that we can talk about the Autism Registration Act. I've given some serious backstory to what is really going on there. I hope that if anything, you have been educated on it, or at least you're curious enough to do your own research. I look forward to you joining me on my next podcast. I'm going to read this. My brother Unlawful is autistic. My in-laws have to do everything for him one day. Me and my wife will probably have to take over for them. Some of them are very, very highly intelligent. Do you want the government knowing that your child is extremely intelligent? At this point, there's no way to really hide that anymore, but being intelligent also means that you have certain deficits, like you may not be as social, or you may be very controlling. You need to have things in a specific way. Only a parent can truly decide what is best for their kid. I just wish we didn't have to go. Hello there, Eli and Carson. How are you? Welcome back. I wish we didn't have to go through this process of fearing the change, because this country is like an egg that has just cracked. And what we should be doing is blending it, a melting pot, but I think it's kind of separating. These politicians and these people in power, they're trying to hoard that by, I guess, enforcing this policy. Because most people who are autistic, most people who go through the American education system, they just become so ostracized from society that they don't think to themselves, you know, if you go for political office, you can actually change some of it for the better. So maybe you can't undo the damage that happened to you, but you can save someone. I have several petitions as a community leader because I'm looking to save people. I'm looking to make your lives easier. I have my change.org/Green California because I'm trying to replant those trees that LA burned down. Trying to set up irrigation so that we don't have forest fires. Is that too neurodivergent to you that I don't want to see my county on fire? Is that so politically incorrect that instead of being a cog in an office, I choose to protect the environment so that kids don't grow up with asthma? Alexander, interesting point there. I'm just going to go a little bit further. I'll leave your comment in there, but I'll go a little bit further and say that we're not all the same species. I myself am a mutant. Genetically mutant. I'm not the same Homo sapien that other people are. I'm a different species. So there are several different species and several different permutations on what being human is. If you're looking for a cyborg, find someone who just put their cell phone down on a table and forgot whether it was. If you're not calling out to technology, you're a cyborg. You're just a cyborg there. You know, how many people are coming out of the military with blown off limbs that have to replace it with machinery? You're a cyborg. Okay, cyborgs are among us. And then you have people who refuse to age. Vampires. Those are real. Zombies. Well, you don't have to go far to find a zombie. You just go to downtown LA. You'll find a bunch of meth heads zonked out and just staring off into space. Zombies. And the same thing for people who watch too much television. Zombies. I love Netflix because I get to binge watch, but Even I had to take a point and say, you know, if I really enjoy the show, I'll watch it over time so I can really appreciate all of the writing and the cinematography and the acting and the direction, everything. So I'll watch it slower over time. Okay. Asthma. ASTHMA, in case you need to know that. We need to find out the root of the problems, and when we do that, we can really make a change. The root of the problem has always been money. Because we have always said that it's a dollar amount instead of saying what is wealth, what is value. If the VA is on this mission to tell me that they're not going to give me my disability benefits, then I'm going to be that asshole. I'm going to be that bitch that says, then you're going to give me a better country. If you want to not pay me, if you refuse to pay me, then I'm going to ask for a better country. I'm going to ask for the skies to be blue. I'm going to ask for the water to be unpolluted. I'm going to ask for crime to go down. I'm going to ask for American grades in math and science to go up if you're not going to pay me. Because I am that bitch, I am that bastard, and I get what I fucking want. And what I want is my America. I get what I want, and what I want is a better country. So if you don't want a better country, then that's you. God loves gay queens. Hello. It is so freeing to just be yourself and to just not care that much about the opinions of other people. Autonomy. The stress that people go through because they look through this distorted lens that social media gives us. I really do wish that I could overcome my PTSD enough to do more social outreach, because I have a feeling that if I started talking to people, I could probably help them. Because my way of life of being highly active and highly creative and living your life in a relaxed beauty balanced perspective is a better life. You can see it. I mean, my skin is fucking gorgeous. Thank you, autism. Thank you, being neurodivergent, that I said to myself, you know, food is cheap, but my body is a fucking temple, so I better feed it with actual food. Goodbye dollar menus, goodbye $3, you know, highly discounted complete meals. No, no, thank you. I'll cook myself my own proper meal. And because I'm poor, I guess I eat a little bit less, so I don't overeat. And I eat alone because I don't have any friends or a partner right now. But that can change if I leave Los Angeles and maybe start talking to real people again. Healthy food in America? Yeah, right. That's sad. That's sad that you feel that way. There are several people. I know that there's an Oliver across the pond who is trying their hardest to instill healthy eating in kids. Um, I guess I'm gonna have to mirror such heroism by encouraging healthy eating in kids and adults here in America. Southwest Productions, you should come to London. I know I should. I absolutely know I should. But I cannot afford the plane ticket. I have a Patreon, I have a Cash App. If anyone wants to donate to my channel, please do, because I need to get out of here. I need to get out of America because, as I said, if they're not going to give me my benefits, then I have no reason to stay here. I really don't. And Willow, just checking in on you. They don't like fast food. I can't, sorry, I'm broke. People say that they're broke, but like a bunch of, like, have you ever heard of the story Jack and the Beanstalk? You know, you had a cow that, you know, is pretty much giving out powdered milk. You've got a sick mum, you've got bills coming up, you have 3 gold coins, and you say to yourself, you know, I really could buy another cow, or I could take my chance on those magic beans. And I know that there's a lot of corollary to being, you know, asking for my disability benefits, but I'm just going to say this. Health is the most important thing, and sometimes the healthiest thing is to have that dichotomy of saying, know your worth. They owe me my benefits, and I'm actually broke though, like living off $20 broke. Willow, I invite you to come to my channel, subscribe to my channel, be a part of my channel, because your struggle is my struggle. And I say that to everyone here. If you have an issue, let me know, because I will talk about it on my podcast. If I can help you, I will help you. You're living off $20. Guess what? Because you said that, let me know. I'm gonna have to find a way to raise $20 for you then. I'm gonna have to find a way to help you. I'm gonna have to make a telethon for you, speak about it on length, because that's the kind of person that I am. I'm the kind of person who says, your problems are my problems. And thank you for the subscription. And just remind me every single time. And if you need to, you can email me. My email is IanXIlyana, the same spelling that you see on this channel, at gmail.com. If you want to talk to me, let me know. I still have my PTSD from military sexual trauma. So if you can, just feel free to use the comments. I have difficulty with speaking to people. But please use the comments to let me know if you need any assistance. And thank you, Southwest, for the subscription there. I appreciate that. I appreciate people who internationally know that this is a larger conversation that we need to have. Food standards, government balance, check of powers, that kind of thing. You have to stay informed, you have to stay engaged. And what is autism registration? It's a thinly veiled threat against American parents that your children will be registered as American dissidents for being autistic. I have an anxiety disorder called selective mutism, so I can't talk to pretty much anyone except, especially in school, and it's such hard work and quite sad. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm very sorry to hear that. And I wouldn't want you to live in this kind of country, which would say that we could deny you benefits for that, we could deny you schooling for that, we could, interfere with your ability to get a job. It can even interfere with your ability to find a potential partner because, you'll never be in a situation where you could be yourself. And as I said before, it is absolutely disgusting that America is using the autistic diagnosis to say, well, it looks like your kid's going to be a problem for America later. And we want to make sure that we're aware of that. Like, well, maybe that kid is just going to be a great musician. Maybe that kid is just going to be a weird game designer, with piercing and tattoos. Are we supposed to say that because they receive a diagnosis like that, that they're a threat to national security? I think that's sad. All right, I'm also getting a diagnosis for autism and ADHD, but the waiting list is so long. However, here in the UK, I have got an educational healthcare plan, which would support me until I'm 25. Good for you. Good for you that you have that support. And as I say, you have to watch stories like this because it's an example. It's an example of a policy that can steamroll across Europe because everyone is having this issue globally of people waking up and say, I'm unhappy. I'm very unhappy. And I think the government is a little bit to blame for that. And some of them take it to extremes, and I don't agree with that either. But some of them just want to find another way to live. And another way to live could mean that maybe instead of being a construction worker, maybe you're a tattoo artist. Maybe instead of, being a dog groomer, you are part of community outreach, and that fulfills you working for a nonprofit. We should want Americans to be happy. We should want them to find what restores that part of their soul that is lost when you're given a label of autistic and everyone knows that you don't have the ability to speak properly. You can't speak in public. You can't be around people, and it's too difficult. And if you had a choice between someone who is the life of the party and someone who isn't, a lot of autistic people are going to miss out. Are there workarounds for it? Don't have your kids in America is the workaround. Now, I'm all for finding foreign holes to invade and marry and enjoy your life. I'm all for that. But not everyone is going to take that route. And then there's also the kids that are born already. So it's a little too late for them. And don't think that adults aren't being added into this. America sounds like a horrible place to live in for those with autism. I didn't know it was that bad. It is that bad. It is that bad that America is using autism to hunt for people who are dissatisfied with America or have the potential to be dissatisfied with America later on in life. Because if you're autistic, it means you're smart. And if you're smart, you see through bullshit. So if the country says, we need a tax for a new road, and you say, go fuck yourself for that tax, how about I build a smart road instead, like change.org/clearlasmog, where I'm going to use recycled materials. And thanks to the very brilliant and talented Clint Gage for his suggestion of using hemp concrete. And thank you, Willow, for coming by. Let me know if you need any assistance. You need chapstick, bro. Kanye West, what you doing in my chat? This is the second time you've appeared in my chat, bro. Kanye West. You see, I can't afford food right now, and so I don't look good. I don't look good at all. I look terrible. I don't look well. I don't look well. Oh, fucking God. I cannot speak English even though I'm English. In America, we don't go to... Give me... No name. You're funny. You should become president. Nah. I would rather just be mayor of one decent town filled with happy people. One decent town filled with happy people. Because as a president, you have to balance so much. And there's not enough people on either side to just say, I can see the point. And hello from California, Ted Schultz. You should be president. I want the position because as president, I can order people to go to Mars within a month. Not a year, not 4 years, a month. I could order as an emergency act for the environment to be cleaned up. I could order as an emergency act for the roads to be repaired. I could order as an emergency act for the entire internet to be upgraded in America because I need faster broadband and Wi-Fi, which is free. I could order offshore drilling to now be illegal because it pollutes the water and has problems with affecting the fault lines. I could also order, your schools to finally be safe places for learning. No bullying, no gun violence, none of it. As a president, I could do that. Change.org/Save American Students is my educational policy if someone would let me be a leader. But I don't need to be a leader of the entire country. I just need to be the leader of one town that says, I don't want my kids leaving the house to go to school be stressful enough to put me into cardiac arrest, because I have to say, if it isn't some maniac running into the building with a gun, it's some other kid saying, hey, do you want to try this drug? Or if you spread your legs, it'll make you popular. No. I think parents who choose to go to work, and enjoy their free time away from their own kids should be guaranteed that those kids come home with an education and the knowledge that they'll make it in this world, that there'll always be a place for them, that they don't have to feel that their children are going to be marginalized for being different, like having autism or being transgender. And besides, I think it would be the coolest thing ever to be the first transgender president, who's also Native American. Wouldn't that be cool to have a Native American transgender president? I mean, the bragging rights alone. Okay, I'm gonna go back into some of this. We need to leave Mars alone. Earth is screwed up enough, plus the trip to Mars, round trip takes a year for you and your technology. It would never be colonized for you and your technology. You and your technology. That's all I gotta say. I'm a better scientist than NASA, SpaceX, and every space agency combined. I can get it done. I can get it done, but either I need to be president in order to make it happen, or I need to be given my disability benefits so I can make it happen. Okay, so can I ask, if you're struggling with yourself with money and that, why do you want to help others with their financial struggles? Because I'm a decent person. That's what you do. That's what you're supposed to do. I mean, maybe you didn't grow up in a decent village, but, you know, the ability to say that your struggle is my struggle is the most beautiful thing that you can give to a person, because it tells them that you're not alone, that no matter how much you struggle and you feel that everything is crashing down upon you, you will always have someone there to pull you out, pull you up. And I guess that's one of the reasons why I joined the military, is because I am the person who runs toward the fire instead of back towards safety. I guess that could be the reason why I'm also really into firefighters. All right, I recently had a lot of vandalism at my school, and hello there, Caden. On a lot of people picking up on neurodiverse, and they are so depressed. It's already hard enough on them, and it's very hard for those people to cope with it. Life is difficult enough. Let's not make it more difficult to people. We have to do more. I agree that is very beautiful. What goes around comes around. How can you get to people to Mars in 1 month? Oh, yes. First things first, I'm the realist. I'm going to build a space elevator. And then from the space elevator, I'm going to create the next space station. I already have it. It's on my channel, Apple Space Station, because I want Apple, the company, to come to common sense and say your deals with other countries should end. You should manufacture your cell phones on a space station so that they can be done in the most humane way possible, and then just ship them where you need to ship them without the sweatshop labor that you use for that. So, like I said, I'm not the president, but I do think of things in a presidential way. If the next space station has to be the Apple space station, let it be the Apple space station. But let it be something. And then from that space station, I make a spaceship. But a spaceship, unlike a space shuttle, it's a spaceship, has full compartments, has storage. And yes, I'm taking everything. I'm taking your polluted air, I'm taking your water, I'm taking or everything in every landfill. I am clearing out the junk from America. All of the junk in America. Gathering it in one place and then sending it up the space elevator to the brand new spaceship, which I'm taking directly to Mars. Did I mention it's a solar sail? And that by focusing and refracting it, it actually travels at a lot faster speed than a rocket would. Why would you pollute space? You're not polluting space. You are removing the pollution from Earth. You are transporting all of the pollution and then repurposing it toward other things. You have polymers and chemicals floating in the atmosphere that used to be other things. Used to be hairspray, and now it's just floating in the atmosphere. You could use it to grease machine pistons on the many machines that will have to be necessary for Mars. All right, let's put it like this: a group led by Okay, yeah. You're missing the part with the dragon. Okay, I've got you. Cool idea. In change.org/genius to Mars. Change.org/you belong on Mars. There are those among you who are married to this Earth life that is fucking you over. It's fucking you over because you're told by commercials, you're told by social media that inserts those ads that they say are not tracking you, but clearly are, whether you press the button or not, because it'll tell you, hey, would you like a brand new car? Instead of saying, do you want to be wealthy enough that you have everything delivered? Do you want to be wealthy enough that you have that choice of just walking to the theater or staying home because you own your own theater? How can you make a space station for millions of iPhones and MacBooks to be made and then ship millions of those products to Earth? It would need to be massive, surely. That's what you can do in space. You can do that in space, and you absolutely have to, because doing it on Earth is just creating misery. The tales that are coming out of Foxconn about how they're dealing... Okay, now I know that's an LA movie. The Apple space station taken over by a pirate. Who? Google? No, because Google would probably say the same exact thing. It just makes more sense to do it that way. It's fast to travel. It's cleaner. It's more humane. And plus, you can make billions of iPhones that way. And also, you wouldn't have to change a damn thing. Make it once, and then that Apple space station. And the reason why I keep saying it is because Apple creates so much waste. So much. They have these lovely programs where they say, you can trade your phone back in. And some people do. But you know what some people do? They just chuck it in the bin. That's lithium. That's lithium. That's gold. That's an aluminium frame. It's a hunk of technology that could still be used. And people just chuck it in the bin. And that goes to a landfill. And there's a landfill guaranteed that has perfectly functioning iPhones. Just sitting there. Oh well. I imagine being in space is worse than... Yeah, he has a good point. My pronouns are they, them. They have a point. It could be a collection of shuttles welded together in Earth's orbit and then launch items back to Earth, industrializing space. It's great in theory. It's not just great in theory. It's perfect. It's perfect because if you do that, you can also have a whole farm up there. Can you imagine all of your ketchup and your soups and everything that uses tomato products could be just grown in a hydroponic lab in space. And then you just ship it back down to Earth. You could feed the entire globe that way. Nod your heads. This is what we want. We always wanted this. We always wanted spaceships, and we always wanted this perfect utopian society where nobody really works anymore. It's just leisure. You're not going to get that on Earth. You're going to get that in space. You're going to get that on Mars. The cost to produce the iPhones would be too great to justify the building of one shuttle alone. You wouldn't do it that way. Apple would be pretty smart and say, you know what, between development cycles, when those machines are laying idle as we're trying to upload the next iPhone design for the thing that we're going to tease 6 months after we just released the next one, we could turn to Google and say, look, we have it built. You want us to just build yours too? And Google at a certain point would probably say, sure, I'll do that. So then we can cut costs on transportation. And then they would say, okay, well, you've done your phone that you wanted to ship and send down. Who else wants to utilize this space? Because we just expanded and included another pod bay of 3D printers on the Apple space station. You know, who wants to do that? Nike, you want to make sneakers up there? Out of algae? You want to make sneakers out of algae? Because that's available. You want to make hemp concrete in space? You could do that and then have that shipped down. Okay, I agree. I'm 100% for space. You should be 100% for space because space is freedom. Space is freedom, and space cuts through this bullshit of countries and what accent do you have and all that nonsense. And the reason why my accent is so flippity floppity flop is because I have lived a full life where I've engaged with other cultures. I've engaged with more European cultures than I have American cultures, more Asian cultures than I have American cultures. And that's just what it is. But business doesn't work like that. It does not simply relies on too much similar thinking. It's impossible to make happen. What would be the best to invest in recycling? %100% so. What's your favorite country? Scotland. I'd have to think. Aberdeen. Inverness. We only recycle one type of plastic, and even that one we throw away most of the time. I have much love for Canada. I really do. I really do. But I don't know. Something about Scotland is a bit more rustic. Canada is very winter wonderland, but I think it's a little too modern and just because they're struggling. I haven't spoken at length about how the province of Ontario is dealing with just nuclear power and just the reduction of fossil fuels. They're still struggling with that. And it's Canada. And you would think Canada would think past that. But no, they're struggling. All right, the UN needs to force everyone to use the same plastic. The UN needs to force people to do everything they can to be a part of the space program, because this is a question of manpower and resources. We need everyone to be involved, every single person on this planet. I have to go now, but nice seeing you and nice talking to you. I respect you. Peace from England. Wish you the best of luck. Thank you so much, and thank you for being part of my channel. Please like, subscribe, and come back anytime. Beyond Watcher program, there's truth and life and deception and death, and we know the earth has life and the darkness does not. No, no. The reason why I say no is because we have several of these NASA reports of, that planet has water on it. It's a water planet. That's an ocean. It's definitely an ocean. Why don't we go there? And don't tell me it's too far. Don't tell me anything, because it sounds to me like you need to step up your technology. You need to step up your science. And honestly, the aliens could be chill. Don't you want to meet some aliens? Don't you want to try and meet some aliens? I know that that's, hippie bullshit of, see if there's life out there, but I want a more exciting life than I met someone from Chicago. I want something more out of life. I want to maybe meet an alien. I want to go to an alien planet, or I want to see a planet and then be the alien. If you go to Mars, you're an alien. You 100% an alien, because only a human would say, I want to live on Earth. Go be an alien. Be a weirdo. Be a weirdo on Mars. Don't live your life on Earth constantly staring at screens and hoping for something better. Go do something else. Read my above comment about the toroidal field. Polluting space locally, which is the outcome, will... Okay, if we landfill Mars, we have to get to Mars first. Word problems, need a list to recognize how difficult it would be to reach the goal. You can say it's difficult for you, it's not difficult for me and my technology, okay? There are already many aliens here on the Earth. I think when we talk about autism, when we talk about celebrities, when we talk about super geniuses, those are aliens. Those are beings from another planet, and that planet could be Mars. I'd like to be hopeful. I really would. The Earth being repolluted. Sorry, I have autism and dyslexia, not a good mix. No, you don't have to apologize for anything. You really don't. I have nothing but sympathy. LOL. Okay, well, that's what you contribute. We could create aliens millions of years later by landing on a habitable planet. Absolutely. And wouldn't you want that? When I think of myself as a Mars pioneer, I'm that Mars pioneer that says, let's accept the fact that we have reached a point in our technology that we can do this. Not in your children's lifetime, grandparents' lifestyle. Today. Today we could be on Mars. If you sign my petition, change.org/genius to Mars, I could go to Cambridge, I could go to Harvard, I could go to MIT and say, here are my actual plans. Building a space elevator, building a space station, a brand new one, building a spaceship, building, a colony ship so that I could start hiring and recruiting people for this wonderful adventure of going to another planet over what's on Survivor, or, is American Idol coming back this year? Is Katy Perry coming back this year as a judge? Oh my God. And I love Katy Perry, but, if some of your existence is American Idol or The Bachelor, or Survivor, or Big Brother, or any of these reality shows, housewife shows, then I worry about you. But it's not my place to worry. If you really enjoy that, you can enjoy that. I don't want that. I don't want that. I want to be a Mars pioneer. I want to tell people you don't have to suffer. You really don't. You can live an equivalent life or better on Mars, because that is the truth. Get some chapstick. Thank you so much. You know what? I'm not going to. I'm going to let you look at fucking how ugly I am, and I'm going to say to myself that I'm beautiful. Because, as I said, I'm not a celebrity. I don't receive money from you people. You're not my fans if you say stuff like that. And if you really feel that way, then buy me some chapstick. Buy me chapstick, buy me some food, sign up for my Patreon, send me some money on Cash App so I could spend money on chapstick, or even have the energy to do so. Oh, Total Recall. Beyond Watcher program, you make an interesting point. I'm going to counter that with part of my Martian space program is to, on the way out, clean up everything. Clean up every lake, every river, everything. Because I need all of it. I need all of it. I need the good water, I need the bad water, I need all of it. Because I need to put water on Mars. So I'm going to take all of it. No way space is the answer. Space is the answer, and going to Mars is definitely the answer. Because when I think of Africa, you know, I think about this wonderful nation who sees things like America and England and France and says, okay, you did it that way, we're going to do it some other way. So the whole idea I have from change.org/clear LA smog is actually a country in Africa that said, you know, we have a lot of junk. Why don't we just use that junk in order to make roads, make playgrounds, which are actually safe, you know, make houses. And that's what they did. And so they have entire towns, entire cities made out of recycled material. And in that way, they have taught themselves and their kids and also their neighbors. I'm an American, and I learned from these people that there is another way. There certainly is, of incorporating recycling and environmentalism into your domestic policy. It's a win-win situation. You have a cleaner society that way. We could create a planet that's sustainable from the ground up. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why I want to go to Mars, because you have that opportunity to just take everything that we've learned, and we've learned so much, and put it to use and stop bickering over bullshit. I can talk about how I have a program to put more solar panels in California to push out this monopoly of electric companies that want to charge you for electricity. And I have that as a petition, and it's available. Look in my description. But if people don't want to listen, guess what? Maybe I should have a town that just has solar panels then, and say that this town's policy is we don't have a utility company, that we as a town say that a power comes from the sun and we don't use any fossil fuels. Autistic. Well, welcome to the chat. This is for you. You could be living in props. I could be doing a lot of things. I look at shows like Andor, and Peter Parker needs a Miles Morales, or at least a new Eddie Brock. But no, I kind of need to be a scientist, a solar engineer, a physicist, and a human rights activist by saying, if you're being abused in your country, or you are abusing yourself with this lifestyle which is unsustainable of consumerism, then you need to take a drastic change. A drastic change could be you go to another planet and you focus on what really matters. When the most important thing to you is a radiation shield, you'll learn to stop watching so much television. When you have the option of, on the journey, socializing with a bunch of hot colonists, you might want to take that journey, especially when by the time you actually get to the next planet, you all have PhDs or MDs in an accelerated course. Because why would you go to another planet as just an uneducated person? You would do that as a university. So my little world ship idea is actually to create a space university. Only the smartest would be allowed in space. You could say that. I would say I would take anyone and I would turn you into the smartest, because the intelligent quotient has always been a measure of potential. It's not a measure of how much you know, it's your capacity to learn, your speed in adapting to different situations. And stupid people are really good in bed. So fuck yeah, I would take anyone. I mean, as long as, you're willing to somewhat contribute. And your contribution could be as simple as, I breathe out carbon dioxide. Great. I have some crops I want you to breathe on top of. And when you piss, could you piss for my plants so I can have nitrogen? Great, you're cool. Okay, you can come with me to Mars. NASA would say, oh, no, you have to be part of the United States Navy. You must be a pilot. You must be this in order to go to Mars. Fuck you and your elitist bullshit. I'm taking Cletus, who used to pump gas, but now, because of my space university world ship, is a hydraulics engineer. Yeah, Cletus and Bubba are coming to Mars with me. Keep your fucking bullshit, because you had Navy pilots, you had Nobel laureates, and you still haven't gone to Mars. Something tells me that your elitist attitude is the reason why we're not at Mars. I don't know, there's some people we shouldn't bring that are too stupid but only like the bottom 20%. Stupid is very relative. What you might think of as stupid, I might say is easily distracted or lacks motivation. Because stupid people can run circles around you in agriculture. They can run circles around you in engineering. You want to talk to someone who is an idiot savant? Talk to someone who makes moonshine. Those people are chemists. The majority of this chat is stupid. The fact that we're on our phones. I would think that it is a little shallow to think of it that way, but if that's what's available to you, that's what's available to you. Space is a scientific impossibility. Earth is flat and stationary. Prove it. That's all I gotta say. If anyone deserves to go to space, it's this guy. Thank you. Thank you. Change.org/genius to Mars. It's in the description, and also change.org/you belong on Mars, because I am the most qualified person to build the first city on Mars. For taking all the water, impossible and selfish, but like I and AI said, interdimensional, toroidal fuel, always going, never arriving. No combustion or propulsion in a vacuum. Oh, I guess we'll have to come up with another way, as if I didn't have that planned. All right. Selfish for taking all the water. Really? Because if I took enough of it, it might actually bring back the ice and actually slow down this climate change. I had 2 job interviews the other day, and I told them I had autism, ADHD, never got the position. But in the 3rd interview, I never told them I had a disability and got the job. Coincidence? I'm sorry that happened to you, but you know that's why a registration act like this is extremely dangerous. Because the government is going to use that against you and say that because you're autistic, you are definitely an American dissident and have to be under the surveillance and the abuse of the American government. Wow, this is actually attracting more people than I thought. I'm going to try and get through as much as this. Mars already has water. It's just frozen. Not enough for what I want to do. As I said, I have my own plans for Mars. I need more. Mars doesn't have Trump or Elon, though. If that's your motivation for signing my petition, janes.org/genius to Mars, let it be that. How do you feel about Neuralink and getting a chip installed in your brain? I'll be honest, I think they have poor technology. And that's all I can really say on that, because I'm a direct competitor to Elon Musk in apparently everything, including his Neuralink. Yes, life needs water. No water is death. Same with air, same with fire, same with earth. I think you would be surprised what you could do with or without. Like I said, Mars is not going to be an easy planet, but that struggle on Mars is going to be the biggest holiday you've ever experienced. Can you imagine a world where someone doesn't, stop you on the street and say, well, Trump said this, or Trump said that, or blah, 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 blah. Or, oh my God, just kids gone missing, or, there's a fire going on, or, something that just brings your adrenaline up because the world is a scary place. Like I said, if a radiation shield is the most important thing in your life, you learn to just chill the fuck out. Yes, I'll get the chip for sure. He is an innovator, a competitor of mine in the scientific field. Before you get that, allow me to offer you an alternative. That's all I can say on that. Ganymede has tons of water. I keep talking about Mars because it's a passion of mine, but that's not my goal. If I'm being honest, I don't want Mars. I will help Earth get to Mars because that's a huge milestone, but I don't want Mars. I want beyond Mars. I want Ganymede. I want Europa. I want Io. I want Callisto. I want all of Jupiter's groupies, his satellites. I want all of it. But then I also want beyond it, I want another star. I want a completely different solar system. And many people will point out that your technology isn't there, my technology would go a lot further. And I can only say that that's what you were always meant to do. You were always meant to reach for the stars and fill out the entire galaxy. Because when you do that, you solve all the bullshit that holds us back, all the bullshit that makes us sick, that keeps us unhappy. You could eradicate disease by going to Mars. Did you consider that? That by signing my petition, you empower me to restore health back to you and the rest of your people like you. Okay, let me see if I can get back into some of this. All right, Denny, I don't know what's wrong with you. If you don't like the idea of space exploration, then just suffer this weird limbo that Americans put themselves in of Monday to Friday, Friday to Sunday, 9 to 5, 8 to 3, sundown to sunup, and you don't celebrate milestones. You don't celebrate your first kid's words. You don't celebrate your first kid's steps, the first recital, the graduations, all these momentous milestones that you miss because you spend so much time pursuing anything but making memories. So because you feel that way, make your own podcast, but you're not going to be on mine. Bye. Mutants, cyborgs, we already have that. I'm a mutant. I'm proud to admit that. Cyborgs, all of us are cyborgs. All of us. When you think about how much technology we incorporate into our lives, how much we allow that to influence us on who we speak to, what we do, how we behave, what we eat, when we eat. You're a cyborg. You pretty much have an AI companion, whether you want to believe it or not. I've always wanted a robot arm. Be more specific. Be more specific, because I think you want to say maybe a cybernetic arm. You don't want just a robot arm. A robot arm is really limited and aesthetically very displeasing. A bottle opener lighter made of gold. Okay, now you're fancy. You're a fancy person if you're asking for all of that. But if that's what you really want out of life, go for it. I would just get a bottle opener made of gold and keep your biological arm, but maybe that's just me. Hello, Willow, welcome back. I'll still put the big bucks for that. I've accepted commissions for less. Okay, challenge accepted. If you really want that, I think most likely you would rather have a multi-purpose arm. Please tell me you're joking, because I really can't help that. I gotta go again. LOL. Sorry. Hello, Willow. Would you remove my biological arm as well? That's the question that we need to have as a society, of how we are willing to go about this evolutionary change. Some people want to have a change of consciousness. Some people want to meld with machines. Some people want to meld with nature. And some people just want to stay human. King, you're just trolling at that point if you say stuff like that. So I'm going to, ask you to be a little bit more aware of, some of the things you say, because I want to maintain your safety. Either way, it's important to have these kind of conversations because, these are things that you should be talking about with your government. You should be talking to your government now about AI and how it interacts with your life, because we're worrying about autism, but we're not talking about how our cell phones are super sophisticated and will manipulate you. Like my iPhone, for example, will stop me from using X. It will lose emails on purpose. There is something else going on, and that's not a conversation that we're willing to have, because it's easy to just pick on a bunch of autistic kids. It's a lot harder to say, yeah, but those machines are all throughout our lives and there's no oversight, government or civilian, over them. You have a company like Apple that says Apple 16 intelligence, and people don't say, what the fuck does that mean? Does that mean that when I try to use my phone tells me no, or my phone says, well, I would prefer you do it this way and I'll just do it for you? Because what does that mean? Hello, Daxton. Hello, hello. Papa. Hello, hello. Welcome. I know you remember me because you call me daddy. I think we need to have that conversation, King. We really do, because there are some people who want cybernetic enhancements, and I don't necessarily see it as a bad thing in certain cases. If you want better eyesight, I'll give you better eyesight. I mean, I would go for better eyesight. If you want better hearing, I can go for better hearing. If you want more tensile strength, I would go for that. You want dermal protection, I'd go for that. Better reflexes, I'd go for that. Faster memory, I'd go for that. I would just use the best technology ever for that. But maybe that's just me. I don't believe in doing things partly. Hello there, Mr. Gamer, maintaining your silence there. Well, thank you for your compliment. And I'm glad so many people, I have 55 people in my chat right now, and this is a very, very long chat about autism and why we need to protect our kids from being registered for being neurodivergent. It warms my heart that so many people are engaged in this conversation, because we really need to fight this, because this is a fight for the soul of America. These kids are growing up are going to need as much guidance and protection as possible from this kind of government intrusion into their personal medical data. Because who knows? They might want to be a Mars colonist like myself one day, or they might want to be a president, or they might want to be a farmer, because When you're autistic, it means that you see through the world, but you also create a world for yourself. You're a person who takes a step forward as a leader. These are wonderful traits that I would love to see celebrated, not just marginalized because the American government is afraid of change, afraid of what it means to have a country of people who say, no, I don't want to work in an office. I don't want to be a ditch digger. I don't want to work in construction. I don't want to work in a coal mine. I don't even want to work in fast food. I want to be a content creator. I want to be on TikTok. I want to be on OnlyFans and, have sex on camera. That's a valid life choice. It's a very valid life choice. And when you think about things like the CDC being reduced in their budget and their staff, and you say to yourself, well, if you really need sexual education and health, you could do an OnlyFans. Know your partners and know that they're very good at sex because you've seen all the videos. Like, let's lose the prude. Like, if you want to get freaky on camera and have that be your lifestyle, be that. Be happy. We talk about autism as, just the people who, make the guttural noises and they do primes and, they scream if you touch them. We don't talk about the higher functioning ones who say, yeah, I could be a math teacher or I could just be a dominatrix on camera. Either way, the math looks very good in your favor. I want options. I want options for American people. This registration bill is going to slam doors in the faces of several kids who are going to grow up into poorly adjusted adults, and they're not going to have a place, and they're going to be gobbled up by the entertainment business or the porn business or whatever, because they couldn't find a regular job or they thought that their life had to revolve around getting a job. Or they're going to be on a watch list by the American government because being an autism is a gateway to being a dissatisfied customer of the American bullshit hamburger. Thank you, everyone, for your concerns about my health. I wish my health would improve because then I wouldn't have so much issues with my beauty. If you want to subscribe to my channel and then subscribe to my Patreon, that would help because I need money to look good. And if you want me to look pretty for you, Daddy, you want me to look pretty for you, Mommy, if you want me to look pretty for you, then pay me through Cash App or Patreon. It's in the links. Otherwise, you get to look at all this. Or you could find some other channel to go to. I don't give a shit. I'm going to be ugly as fuck with my beautiful unblemished skin and my chapped lips, because that's what you deal with. I'm poor. So this is what you get to see. You want pretty? Go look at Matt Bomer on his Hulu show. He's very attractive. Same with Zachary Quinto. Fuck you. Yes, I would like to. You want to look at pretty? Look at him covered in milk. That is pretty. Me, on the other hand, you get chapstick. You get to stare at someone who doesn't use chapstick. Do you believe in Jesus? Because bro gave me and the other followers superpowers. Jesus is pretty. I will counter that with, do you believe in magic? In a young man's heart. I think it's a lovely story, bro, but it's just a creation myth that borrowed heavily from pagans and was used to enslave people. Lovely ideas, lovely, story, good parables and things like that, but it's ripped out of paganism and they don't want to call it that. They want to call it Catholicism, they want to call it Christianity, instead of saying, no, you used to worship the fucking forest. You used to dance naked in the trees and you were happy. You were happy when you were dancing amongst the trees. Now all these people are afraid of God and God and God. And it's just, I think you'd be happier running naked through the forest, having sex all the live long day, and drinking and just enjoying your life than trying to be a good Christian. Because good Christians have great porn. Because they know the truth. Ain't no one have more fun than the people in hell. Heaven is the most boring party ever. Well, but the real Jesus didn't want them to do all that. How do you know? How do you know? How do you know what Jesus thought of? Were you there? It's something to think about. I'm a scientist. I don't believe in any of that. I believe in math. And I think it's more probable that there's people with thieves and stole entire texts from other religions and just cobble them together, which is why when you look at something like the Bible, they have to say things like the King James edition, because it's not the first draft. It's not the original copy. It's been heavily redacted, and also some of the meaning has shifted, because it used to be letters meant numbers and numbers had special significance, and there were hidden messages and stories within stories and correlations to geographical locations and just whole historical events that lost, whole stories that were lost. But as I said, I'm not a theologian. You believe in what you believe in. We have freedom of religion here, so I don't want to take you to Bible school. All right. I'm going to call it there because I'm beginning to think like Matthew McConaughey in the middle of Interstellar, because if we don't go to Mars, we are just damning ourselves to a doomed Earth. Change.org/Genius to Mars. Make that change, really make that change in your life. My name is IanXIlyana. I hope to see you in my podcast. Thank you, everyone who has joined me. Appreciate all of you. Come back and join me anytime.